Today on the 1012 softball show, myself, Eric, and Lea are wrapping up the season of Big 12 softball coverage, talking about Texas Tech's run to the championship series of the Women's College World Series, Houston's new hire, transfer portal exits and additions for every Big 12 team, and power ranking tiers, way too early ones. A look to next season for Big 12 softball. Coming up. Welcome to the 1012 softball show, our season finale. We are, of course, part of the 1012 podcast network, partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip Slavin. It's a loaded show for the season to be over. I'm both relieved and sad at the same time. Ready to take a bit of a break, but also sad that this will be the last time I talk to these two in podcast form for probably at least a little while. I'll try and do a little more off season before it to February. These two, of course, being, in case this is your first time listening to the show, he is the voice of UCF softball. He is one of the leading voices of Big 12 softball. He is one of the leading voices of college softball with the In the Circle podcast. Oh, he is Eric Lopez. Eric, how are you, man?
It's good to be here with you guys. Good to be here.
Eric, I don't know what that sound is that I'm hearing.
It was my phone actually literally blowing up because there's a lot of softball news going on as we're recording this. So
it's insane.
I now sympathize with the Adam Schefters of the world and the Sham Sharanias of the world. I don't know how they live, but I that's what it is. Lots of softball.
I wish people could have seen Eric's face and the way he scrambled to try to turn his phone off.
Well, no, let's see, because this is what it's always wild, and I know people don't care about behind the scenes stuff, but when I'm recording like in the circle, that's when my phone decides to explode with new. It never happens when I'm eating, just having a nice day, not doing anything. It's always when I'm busy recording something or doing like this show, for example, tonight.
Of course, thanks,
guys.
Yeah, that's of course that is how it goes. Of course that's how it goes. That other voice that you hear, she is the mother of the Cycloneers. She is the queen of the Quad Cities. She is the most famous Iowa State softball alum. She is the 10-12 trash talk queen. No, it wasn't queen. That's all right. She is, of course, Baylor softball head coach Glenn Moore's third favorite person. She is Lea Nelson.
I'm going to miss hearing that every week. I might have to call Phillip up every once in a while and just, can you give me my intro really quick? But yeah,
you ever need to pick me up? You ever need to pick me up? You just call me.
I know who to call.
I will drop the intro on you and do what I can. We got a lot to talk about. As Eric said, his phone is blowing up because y'all, the portal is going crazy. The portal is going crazy. So we're going to have to talk about the transfer portal. We have to. Texas Tech's night has been wild. Day as we record this on Wednesday. This drops on Thursday. But let's start with some Texas Tech talk because the Red Raiders came up just a game short of winning their first national championship in softball, but going all the way to Game 3 in the championship series against Texas. I understand that they lost. I don't think I've met any Texas Tech fans who are sitting here bemoaning how this season went and ended. I know you'd like to have the trophy, but considering it's their first trip to the Women's College World Series and they made it all the way to Game 3 of the championship series with a shot to win it all, absolutely incredible run for the Red Raiders. Game 3, you could say, is a little bit disappointing, but Eric, talking to mutual good friend Justin of D1 softball, like he said that crowd on Game 3 was probably 70% Texas Tech, 30% Texas. Like the Texas Tech fans showed up. We'll talk about the future of this program here in a minute, but an absolutely memorable season no matter what happens moving forward for Texas Tech. Let's talk about also the fact that they had to knock off the previous three programs, the last three programs to win a national championship before this year. Florida State, UCLA, Oklahoma, they had to knock off all of them on the way to get to that championship series. A dream run for Texas Tech that came up just short, but I don't know how you can be disappointed in what the Red Raiders did in the first year of Jerry Glasgow, in the first year of what looks like the start of one of the best programs in college softball.
It's a softball school now. It wasn't before. If we would have had this conference a year ago, that was not the case. They have turned that into a softball school. People are interested. They're invested. You mentioned the fan base that showed up. It was an electric atmosphere for all those Sooner fans that thought the World Series, they're going to lose attendance. Yeah, not quite. No, they still set records without Oklahoma. And by the way, they set television viewership records without Oklahoma.
Almost like parody is a good thing. Almost like seeing something different and exciting is a good thing sometimes.
Imagine that. It's kind of wild. Now, they're not going away quietly. We'll see about that next year. But nonetheless, look, it was an incredible year. And again, when you add a star player like Nyjah Kennedy who bet on herself, it paid off. She is the most recognizable Texas Tech athlete on campus right now. What a run to beat Oklahoma in that thrilling game Monday night. Jerry Glasgow going against Sam Landry to knock them out completely, beat UCLA, and all those Bruin fans, their little signs about I don't know where Lubbock is. Oh, I have a feeling they know now for many reasons, not just on the field. But, it's an incredible run, and they represented the Big 12 well. They're not going away, and look, obviously, if you want to nitpick, boy, you wonder what if in that game 1 of the champ series, that whole intentional walk situation with Reese Atwood, if that goes a different way, are we talking about them with a national title? Because clearly Nyjah was tired in game 3. That's the price you pay when you pitch 3 straight days and you're playing catch up. And
when you've pitched every game of the postseason,
pretty much,
not just 3 straight games. Every game of the postseason for Texas Tech, she pitched it. She was in the circle.
Right. And their offense in the champ series caught up with it. Really, I mean, Maya Davis and Haley Toney were the only ones that hit. That's going to catch up with you. So that's part of the reason. Because if you would have hit a little better offensively, maybe you could have taken Nyjah out of some games and stuff. But at the end of the day, nobody at Texas Tech would have imagined this to be 1 game away from the national championship at all. And I don't even think people internally at Texas Tech, I know they thought they would be good. I think they felt they could compete for the Big 12 title with Nyjah, but to get all the way, because they did have some flaws on the roster from a depth standpoint and question marks that they had to deal with. And remember, Nyjah had an injury early in the year that was pretty serious. So absolutely, this is a historic year that has changed Texas Tech forever, because from here on out, they are a softball school from as far as they're going to be excited. There's already waiting. They're on a waiting list for season tickets. Lubbock, Texas now has become a softball school, and that's a good thing.
I think if you're a Texas Tech fan or a Texas Tech athlete, you can't be mad or upset with how the season went, because like Eric said, it went so much better than a lot of people thought. And I think it's really important to, showcase the fact that this is what can happen if you invest in women's athletics and softball. Like, if you put some money behind it and you really are supporting these teams, like, who knows what could happen? And I think this opened the eyes of a lot of people. And I know a lot more people are softball fans now because, again, it's nice to see someone different in the championships. It's nice to see other storylines. And I think it just got people excited. And I cannot wait until next year because, I'm a huge Texas Tech fan already for Big 12, but I think next year is going to be absolutely insane across the Big 12. And we've been teasing that all year long, but like after today and the transfer portal news, like I can't even imagine what we're going to see tomorrow. Or I said tomorrow. That's how excited I am. What we're going to see next year.
Yeah, look, we'll talk about portal, like I said, here in a bit, because it's going to lead to our way too early look for next season. But I love the people that are griping about Texas Tech spending. It's only because they spent this money. You're complaining about investment in the sport, because that's what this is. This is investment in the sport. Okay? It's Texas Tech. They had to spend to get here. Hey, guess what? Every school has to spend outside of Oklahoma, and even they spend too. Okay? everyone spends money. You have to spend money. And the fact that there is a program like Texas Tech, who has no history of great softball success, who's saying, we're going to spend, we're going to be good, we're going to present another great softball program to help continue to bring in eyeballs, continue to bring in another fan base that is a big and rabid fan base when their program has success, to softball is a great thing. This is a good thing for the sport to have teams invested. We can complain about the transfer portal. We could talk about blah, 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 blah. That is the reality we live in. And so to see Texas Tech invest the way they are is great. This is good. This is good for the sport to have more good teams in a sport where more than 2/3 of the programs are considered quad 4 or not remotely anywhere near good. More good teams is good for the sport. I love this. Also, shout out to the Texas Tech fans who went back and found the tweets when it was announced that Nyjah Kennedy was going to Texas Tech, and reading the receipts of all the replies to that about the mistake that she was making by leaving Stanford to go to Lubbock and Texas Tech. Oh, I've never seen better receipts in my life. It was good. The rent came due on those, and it was magnanimous. Just magnanimous.
Well, and the thing that nobody brings up is Texas Tech has benefited. They have made that revenue and then some as a result of her arrival. Nobody ever brings that up.
No.
Nobody. And that was the thing. Like, listen, I have friends on the ESPN broadcast and all that stuff. They obviously refer to her as the $1 million arm numerous times, to the point where I think it agitated some Texas Tech fans. It agitated Jerry Glasgow in the final press conference, which I understood where he was coming from. What nobody Connors brings up is look into what Texas Tech has benefited from that, because you want to scrutinize what these players are making, but nobody's scrutinizing what Texas Tech is spending on football players. Trust me, they're spending a ton of. This ain't just softball; they're investing in every sport. I know for a fact there's a defensive lineman that Texas Tech got from UCF, Lee Hunter, I believe is his name, who is making over $1 million. But nobody writes about that. But we're got to make a big fuss about the softball player. Oh my goodness! Listen. They've invested, like you said, and they've been prepared for this. And I got news for you. Every player that's transferred to an SEC school, every player that's going to Oklahoma, transferred to Oklahoma, I got breaking news. They're not going for free.
Thank you, Eric.
What? You mean Texas Tech's not the only school paying players? I saw the report that Texas Tech's going to spend like $55 million on its rosters across all sports this year, and there are worse places for money to go,
and that is not including the rumors of the Matador Club going after Lea Nelson to be their color analyst. I mean, that was salaries of. Lea, are you gonna? I mean, what is the statement there? You bail it too.
Hey, my lips are sealed.
Lea, I got to be honest with you. I can't match. Okay. Hey. We do expect you to work for free here at the.
And I would do that for you guys.
You're a blessing. You mentioned the two things we've kind of known that Jerry would be looking at in the transfer portal would be another arm. They didn't seem to want to trust Riasetto enough when they got into the postseason. They didn't really give her much in the way of innings to pitch, and offense. Whereas, like I said, we're going to talk about the transfer portal coming up, but based off so far, it looks like Texas Tech's working to solve those problems for themselves. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to move over to another team in the state of Houston, or in Texas. Well, there it is, Houston. What a segue. I just butchered my own segue. Houston finally has a head coach in Chrissy Schoonmaker from George Washington. She was an assistant for Houston about, I think, 2014 for a year. Just a third ever head coach in program history, went 113 and 92 in 4 seasons at George Washington. That includes 2 30+ win seasons in her 4 years. She's the only head coach to have 3 winning seasons at George Washington in program history. This name came absolutely out of nowhere. It was not on anybody's list whatsoever, nowhere near anyone's list. Eric, I'm going to let you share your thoughts before I share what I have been told about this cluster of a hire. No shot at Schoonmaker whatsoever. But Eric, what was your reaction to this announcement and kind of your thoughts on this decision?
Well, it was unique because I was getting information as this process was going, and when I first heard her name, I was taken aback by it. For sure, this was not somebody that would have been at the front list of a lot of people. But you got to also think about who realistically was in the mix as this thing kind of played out. I think they probably didn't get their first choice, if I had to guess, or second choice. So
they did not get their first choice. No.
Yeah. So that's for sure. So I mean, that's what happens sometimes. So what you land is, Chrissy has been at Houston, as you mentioned, in 2014 when Kyla Hollis was the head coach. They made the NCAA tournament that year. The year before that, she was an assistant at Texas Tech, as if I recall correctly. So she has ties there. She's been a head coach at GW. They made the NCAA tournament. The big question for Eddie Nunez is, did you want a coach with head coaching experience? Is it a situation where who kind of put her name in the reference there? I know Chrissy a little bit. I've covered Chrissy. She interviews well. It would not surprise me that she knocked it out of the park in her interview process throughout this, and probably and sometimes this happens in coaching in hires. You got to be a little lucky to get a job sometimes. And if maybe you're not the first option, but if that first option or a second option says no and you jump in there, you can get a job that way. There's been plenty of examples for that. So I think that's kind of what happened here. I am guessing, Phillip, you're not throwing a big parade here for Houston, I'm assuming.
Let me, after a conversation about a program that is investing in softball, let me say this. Before I say anything else, nothing I'm about to say is any comment whatsoever on whether or not she will have success at Houston. I have no idea. She could work out and be great. It's not always about how you get there, right? With plenty of opportunities of coaches that have been hired across all sports at schools and fans were kind of disappointed in the hire, and then they turned out to be successful. So nothing I'm about to say is any indication of whether or not she's going to have success at Houston. This was not the first choice, and this entire thing was a mess. And it felt like a mess when it took them as long as it did just to relieve Kristen Vesely from being the head coach when we all knew that was coming. They let her do the exit interviews before they finally got rid of her. Okay. Then we fast forward to what I've been told is Houston called so many coaches about this job, some in which Houston didn't really even have that much interest in hiring. They were just told that that's someone they should probably go and talk to and reach out to. They did Zoom interviews with a number of coaches. I believe it was the weekend right before Super Regionals. From there, their focus was on landing a female head coach. From there, and then the Friday before the Women's College World Series started, they actually had some candidates on campus. Some of the ones that they had Zoom interviewed with had stepped away. They thought they were going to get their number one target. I do not know the name of who that is. I'll tell you that. That person inevitably turned them down. And so they had a couple different people on campus at that time. And so next thing you know, now they've decided, well, we'll call a couple of male candidates, just kind of cold call them, talk to them over the phone a little bit, offered one the job over the phone call. They went to their current job, asked for more money. That current job matched it. And so Houston moved on to the next candidate who said, I need 24 hours so I can talk to my wife. And they said, you don't get 24 hours. And so he told them, no, thank you. One of the individuals who was on campus for those on-campus interviews was Chrissy Schoonmaker. She was we know she'll take it if no one else will candidate. And again, this is not a shot at her. This is not a shot at her as a coach, her credentials, or whether or not she will have success. This is a commentary on the process that Houston went through to get to this point. It was not a good process. It was a cluster of a process. It tells me a lot that this is how they had to settle, and that the baseball head coach, who is very well liked but has had little to no success, has been retained for his final year of his contract, and makes me say, it's not just that I don't think Houston wants to invest. I don't think they have the money to invest in anything right now, let alone softball. Again, I've never talked to Chrissy Schoonmaker. I hope she has success. I would love to see Houston have success. They don't struggle to get talent there. It's a great spot to get talent. Players want to stay within Houston. Players want to come back. She should have plenty of opportunity to have talent. I think if they get good development and can land a pitcher or two, that she'll have success. But this entire process for Houston was a mess and poorly run. End of story.
Wow, Lea, how about that? Phillip, the insider here. Fired
Literally,
up.
I'm kind of at a loss for words. That was really good. I wasn't expecting that from Phillip. Shout out.
I know. I don't usually get that kind of detail.
Right.
But,
I was going to say that's impressive.
There's a couple questions I have for you. I'll probably have to ask you off there because there's a couple things. There's a couple things you mentioned I did not know about. A lot of that stuff I had heard. And listen, that might all be fair. I think it's all fair. I think Houston has mentioned that they've struggled financially. That's fair. That being said, it could still work out, and I do think they're going to move in a better direction. It's going to be a rebuild. Listen, and I did request to get her on the podcast, on In the Circle podcast, and I'm looking forward to talking to her. I think she will help. I will say this. I think she's going to help clean up some of the ill will, Phillip, that you know this, of all the stuff that had gone on there in that that there was a lot of issues in that program that evidently, allegedly, not allegedly, whatever you want to describe it as. There's a lot of stuff to clean up there, and I think she will do that. And can she build a team good enough to win in the Big 12? That's a good question. I don't know, but I think there's some things she will fix that has to be fixed beyond just softball. They've got to get people interested in that program again. That program, when I first started covering softball, that was a hotbed. It was big, and it has dropped off in interest for a lot of reasons. And that's one of the main things. And I think she has a background in sports media. She's done color commentary before being the head coach at GW. I am guessing, this is just pure speculation on my part. I don't know this for a fact. That's why I want to talk to her. But I wonder if Beverly Smith, who is the former South Carolina head coach, if she was one of the people that probably put her name on that as reference for that job. That's just my guess on that. But I think she will help get the word out to get some interest at Houston. But everything else you said, I can't argue with. There are many questions moving forward, and we'll see if we hear from Houston about that. Who knows? But we'll see. I'm going to give her a chance. It's certainly not the direction you mentioned how the process went. I tend to agree with you. I am never one that is a supporter of limiting your options. And based on how your description there, they try to limit their options at the beginning. And they probably spent too much time on their number one option, who, if I believe it, who it is, was probably never a realistic option. And sometimes you could get caught in that.
Well, I've also been told that one of the things that may have delayed the process was the rumors about Beth Torina at LSU. And had they not made it out of their regional, if she would have become available, because had she, the relationship that Houston's athletic director had over there with her, she would have immediately moved to the top of their list and they would have gone hard after her. But that still doesn't explain that this process was a long and drawn out process to get to this point. When you knew that this was the final year on Vesely's contract, when you waited as long as you did to relieve her of duties, when she should have been told after they got back from OKC, thanks a lot, we'll see you, especially with all the allegations that have come against her. I'll say that for Schoonmaker. She is immediately a better option than Vesely based off what we have had, what has been reported by our friends at Scott and Holman podcast about Vesely and what she has done at this program. But the fact that it took them this long to get through this process, to get to Schoonmaker, it's not.
It would have been different, right? If this would have taken as long as it did, and they ended up with Steve Singleton, which was a rumored name, right, from Texas, you would feel differently, right? Because you gotta wait till he finishes his job. That's very peculiar. That would be more understandable. I think that the length of it, and then on who you ended up, probably he's got people a little perplexed.
Yeah. When you've seen some of the other hires that have happened quickly, that have moves that have occurred fast, and there's obviously.
But you're angry about this. That's definitely Lea. He is fired up about this. I don't know. Good luck.
look, this is Big 12 show. I want all the Big 12 schools to be good. And again, she might work out. And I hope that she does. And I hope that Houston has success. It just feels like there was an opportunity for Houston to turn things around. And it should have been.
Who would you have hired? Who would you have hired right now? Who would you have picked?
Well, like, okay. Not knowing who would have said yes.
Right.
I'm gonna wonder if Jordan Clark was one of their top targets, and she would have been my top target, and I would have done moved the moon and stars to try and get her to Houston, and assuming she still wanted to.
What if she was and she still turned you down?
If she's well, that's fine. I would have looked very hard. Obviously, we weren't going to do long after he had to step down at UNT for off the field issues.
Right.
The names that I looked at a lot were, and now give me a second because I had them written down and I haven't had them written down for a while.
You wanted Lea Nelson to apply, didn't you? You wanted Lea to apply.
I wanted Lea to be the next head coach at Houston softball.
You know,
I'm waiting until West Virginia gets a softball program,
which is the right move.
Right.
I really wanted them to take a serious look at James Landreneau at McNeese. I think that would have been the number 2 name on my list.
Over Singleton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I get the rumors about, like, people are always like, oh, who's going to get a head coaching job? And yet he keeps not getting one. So either he doesn't want one or people have interviewed him and he's not a good interview. And if I'm him and I'm being picky, maybe he wants a job in Texas. And you would reach out to him, but Landreneau would have been higher on my list for the success that he's had at McNeese, which, based off of geography and its proximity to Houston, would make a lot of sense to bring in someone who has history recruiting in that area. And so combine all that together, I would have been very happy if I was able to land him as the head coach at Houston. 335 and 179 at McNeese in his time there in 9 seasons. 4-time Southland Conference Coach of the Year. I think he's been a phenomenal coach there, and I think geographically he makes a lot of sense. And I think that would have been name number 2 on my list. I have a hard time with assistant coaches in softball versus other sports, to be honest. Basketball is the hardest one for me because you never know what assistant coaches should actually get credit for what. Football, you can kind of play the game a little bit better just because you're used to, OCs and DCs and success they've had. Softball, similarly, unless you get someone who's like, just like, find me the 3 best pitching coaches in the country and will one of them take this job, we could talk about it that way. But if I'm going for a sitting head coach, and I would, it'd be Jordan Clark, and then it would be Landreneau.
I don't think you're wrong on the Clark part, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was in that mix. But again, I don't know if she says no. And I wonder if Houston here, their flaw was they went after option A, their number 1 option, but didn't have a plan B ready to go. And I think the other question, if I'm a Houston fan, I'm thinking if you would have pulled the trigger on Vesley a year early, maybe you would have because there was better talent candidates, more candidates last year. I wonder if Houston maybe was a year late. But again, I'm not throwing the white flag on Christy Schoonmaker yet. I'm not doing that. I think you got to give her a shot to build it. It's a fresh start. We'll see what happens. Because there's plenty of examples where the first options or second options that don't somebody that's a third or fourth option panned out pretty well. I mean, there's no secret that Lea was not it was not your first option. Phillip was not your second option here, but nonetheless, she's worked out.
She was my Schoonmaker.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys are messed up. Messed up, both of you.
This is payback for all that sweep talk you were giving me earlier in the year.
It wasn't even that bad.
No, it really wasn't. I think we were both generally shocked too. I don't think we expected it to go that far.
No, we didn't. We didn't at all.
It's gonna be the
and
start
Coach
of the
Pink knows that too.
2026 season, and Eric is still going to be talking about the sweep from this year.
He still loses sleep over it.
I really do. You have no idea. We had alumni weekend that got awkward because we never lost an alumni game. I had people asking me where Lea is. It was just very.
You're just distracted and just, I get it.
Hey, I gave you shout outs on the broadcast.
I do.
Right?
That was so sweet. When I went to Alumni Weekend, I'm pretty sure Iowa State won. So,
Congrats. Very good. Well said.
Okay, I think that settles us on the Houston job now being closed. Let's turn to everyone's favorite thing to talk about. Athletes Unlimited Softball League, which is going strong already, has had an incredible start. They're selling out games like crazy. I've got my Bandits hat. Shout out AUSL for sending it. That's the team that I have selected, and I'm glad I did because Lexi Kilfoyle has been phenomenal for them in the circle. And oh, by the way, the Bandits recorded the first run rule win, 8-0 win in 5 innings of the inaugural AUSL season. It's been phenomenal professional softball. I love the way this has been put together. I cannot wait to see what this thing continues to go this season, as they continue to build. Look, if you like softball, you should go to an AUSL game this summer. They've got plenty of games in Wichita. They've got games in Norman coming up. As we mentioned, they're going to be in Round Rock, Texas, Salt Lake City, Utah. They'll be up in Washington. Lots of games in Alabama. They've been in North Carolina. So if they're going to be anywhere near you, go get your tickets now. As I said, they have already had games that have sold out. So it's not like I will just show up day of 20 minutes before and grab a ticket. You may not be able to, because these are actually hot ticket items. I've had people that we have talked to on Twitter reach out and be like, I got my tickets. I'm going to this. I can't wait. So go to theausl.com, go to the schedule, pick the games you want to go to. When you buy your single game tickets, use our promo code Ten12, TEN12, get 10% off. They're not super expensive. That's why the discount's not super high, but it's still a discount on an awesome opportunity to take you and the kids and your girl or your boy or whoever your significant other is and take them to go watch some pro softball. It has been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I have watched when I can. I have not watched every game. I have not been able to. I've got some a 6-year-old playing softball, and she's phenomenal. And so that takes precedent over Lexi Kilfoyle. I'm quickly becoming her number one fan. So theausl.com, single game tickets. Use the promo code Ten12, TEN12, get 10% off. Y'all go watch yourself some pro softball. It's been great so far. Eric, have you had a chance to watch any of the AUSL games on ESPN so far?
Not a full length, but we'll get there. We're going to get there as we get going this summer.
Okay. Leah, you've been too busy running the Quad Cities?
I'm staying with Eric, bits and pieces, but shout out Bandits. They have been fun to watch.
Shout out Lexi Kilfoyle, making history there. Come on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
All right, let's turn to the transfer portal. It's been crazy. It's been wild. We'll start with the team that has been cleaning up. As we mentioned, Texas Tech's going to find themselves maybe another arm, maybe some more offense. They have 4 commits so far. Now, first, let's start with the exits for Texas Tech. They only lose 2 seniors from this class. Everyone else that has entered the portal from Texas Tech is either a freshman or someone who hasn't had major contribution so far this year, with the exception of maybe Reagan Jennings, sophomore infielder, who'd been pretty solid for them. That one's I'm kind of sad to see go, and I hope she stays in the Big 12. But outside of that, there's no major losses other than the 2 Langoliers and Demi Elder, whose eligibility has expired. And then Texas Tech said, you know what we're going to do? We are going to spend some money. What are we going to spend that money on? We're going to spend that money on arms and offense and players based off of On3 Softball America's transfer portal rankings. Texas Tech has now signed the number 3, the number 5, the number 6, and the number 28 players. That includes All-American 2-way player Caitlin Terry from UCLA, 2-time 20 wins in the circle. Also gives the Red Raiders another solid arm and another good bat. All-American center Jazzy Burns from Ohio State, who's a phenomenal hitter. Former Florida infielder Maya Williams and Southern Illinois shortstop Jackie Liss. Here's the fun stat. Shout out to our good friends over at how did I just forget the podcast name? I feel awful now. Eric, you know who they are.
Give us some clues and hints.
Yeah, what's the
Texas Tech? Texas Tech podcast.
The Scarlet.
Dean Scarlet.
Yeah.
Dean Scarlet. My friend Shelby there.
Thank
Come
you.
on
Thank
now.
you. I know. I was like, I got the word crimson in my head, which is not the correct color. And then I was like, that's not right. That's not the red. Sorry. Shout out to them for pointing this out. This is a great thing. Texas Tech this year, let's say, of the transfer portals they've added so far, 57 home runs. Texas Tech had 60 as a team this past season. They've added 57 home runs to a team that didn't hit a ton of them this year. They've found the bats. I think they've got another arm to really give Kennedy a break. You get into that championship series, you don't have to necessarily pitch her 3 straight games. That's how good Caitlin Terry is in the circle. This roster, they just stacked talent on top of talent.
There's no question.
Absolutely. This is to me. We're going to do our way too early power rankings. A sneak peek. Texas Tech will be the preseason number 1 team in the country come next year. And I don't even feel like that's a hot take or a bold prediction at all.
No, it's a lock. Jerry, you knew, knowing Jerry as long as I did, with that offense last year, he wasn't going to come back with a similar offense. You're going to add up to that, and boy, they have that. And I got news for you. As we record this, they're not done.
Nope.
Don't be surprised if another name or two gets added to that before this is all said and done. And I understand people are going to get agitated about that, but they're not doing anything any different than previous other teams that have been to the World Series have done. They're just taking it to a next level, and I agree with you, Phillip, 100%. They're going to be the number 1 team in the Big 12 next year. They're going to be the number 1 team in the country going in, and it's just a question of all making it blend. But, they're very aggressive here, and Texas Tech, this was with Nyjah, they're not going to waste her senior year.
No.
Okay, they want to go all in, and I think that's what they're going to do, and they're going to have a stacked team and a roster that's got to fit, but they're absolutely give them credit. They've been prepared. Really, I think they're one of the schools that have been prepared for where college athletics has been going, and here we are.
Agreed. You can't see me shaking my head, yes, but I agree. Lea, go ahead.
You're just cracking me up with your camera off. I can only imagine the faces you were making when you were talking about Houston. But this is how you use the transfer portal. And again, Eric, I'm so glad you mentioned this isn't new. Reminder, this is not new. This is what other teams have been doing. It just seems new because it's Texas Tech. But I don't think it's a hot take that they're going to be preseason number 1. I've been seeing it all over Twitter. And it's going to be exciting. I think they got who they needed to. We chatted about how it was going to be really, really tough for Nyjah to be able to pitch all of the games at the World Series to be able to win. We've seen it before with Odyssey. So they knew what they needed from the transfer portal. They went and grabbed it, which I don't think it was too hard for them. I think a lot of people watching Texas Tech, a lot of athletes wanted to go play there, which is crazy. Again, I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. No offense to Texas Tech, but the fact that people are gravitating toward Texas Tech, but Lubbock, again, no offense, but it is just really cool to see where softball is heading, and it's going to be really exciting. I can only imagine what, these next few years are like for, college softball.
Well, and Lea, I want you to comment on this because you play. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. They're poaching this or poaching that. I don't think there's any of that going on. What's going on is Nyjah's hey, we can take care of you here, right? Players talk among each other.
Oh, 1,000 players talk. I mean, you can, if you really want to do some digging, you can watch as players follow other players on social media. You can kind of see who's going to commit to where, friends, you guys have to remember that the softball world is small. A lot of these athletes know each other from travel ball, high school teams. They know each other. They want their friends to come. They want their former teammates to come and play with them. And again, you can even see it through your TV screen. Me not knowing really any of the athletes at Texas Tech or the coaching staff, but I even was they would be so fun to play with and for. You could just see it through their screen, how they played for each other, how they had each other's back, and how they just went out and worked. So, yeah, there's no there.
Well, and they know, hey, if Nyjah got taken care of and others got taken care of, I mean, shoot, maybe I could go there, right?
And not to talk money, but to talk money. There's money in Texas Tech. like if you're going there and you're like a Caitlin Terry, like you're going to be taken care of. Like you are going to get money. There's NIL deals, not just like, it's just crazy. Like my mind can't even comprehend the amount of money that is going on in NIL. But yes, you hit it right square on the head, Eric. Like these athletes are going to be taken care of for sure, and might even get a national championship out of it as well. So,
yeah, why would you not want to go play for a team that was one win away, and know like, hey, we're also going to stack it with you and other players and just be better next year and go.
It's no different. It's no different than when LeBron, people followed wherever LeBron James went. They wanted to play for him, right? In the NBA, as an example. Yep. The Dodgers have stockpiled talent. Shohei Ohtani joined the Freddie Freemans and the Mookie Bettses of the world. This is also going on in college basketball. You know that as well as anybody, Phillip. In the Big 12, my goodness, that happens times 10. My goodness, BYU, Phillip, where you're going to be talking a lot about on the basketball when basketball season gets going. They've got the number one high school basketball recruit for $6 million. And they added another piece, I think the Baylor transfer, I want to say, for like 2-3. My point is, schools are going to invest because they're competitive human beings. And BYU's and the Texas Techs, to me, and not to, now what's interesting, I have not heard BYU in softball, Phillip, spend money, which is interesting. They've spent it on basketball. Where I give Texas Tech credit for this, they're spending it on every sport. Topping the kid star player, All-American basketball player, is making $4 million for Texas Tech. They're not picking one sport over the other. Whereas where I have issues with is when a school picks one sport over another. In most cases, a lot of schools are just, we're just going to pick football or men's hoops, or we're going to pick women's basketball, even though there's like 30 people there, even though softball's more popular. But we have to go with women's basketball because there's 10,000 seats in there, even though 9,980 of them are usually empty every night. That's my issue. That's one I
look, everyone can't spend on everything. That's not realistic. And so I'm perfectly fine with schools picking the sport they want to spend on. And sometimes it's not up to the school, it's up to the donor. With my money, you're going to spend it on the sport I want you to spend on. I want us to be good at.
And that's what happened at Texas Tech. That's what happened.
So if you don't have those, they're not doing this. It doesn't mean that Texas Tech isn't happy to spend on softball, but you've got to have the money come from somewhere. If you're going to have non-football sports thrive by investment, it's not because the school's like, we're now going to spend 50% of, no, it's because you found donors who said, we want our school to be good at this, and we're willing to spend to make it happen. And that's what it's going to take moving forward.
But really quick, don't you think, though, Texas Tech this past year has opened so many eyes now, because you're going to have the donors that might not really think to spend money on maybe a softball team that's at a school that softball isn't super big, and then they're going to go put money in, and it could potentially lead again to a national championship. Like, don't you think this is this is a game changer, what Texas Tech has done this past year?
No, but it shows that if you can find someone who's willing to spend to invest in the program, you can turn a program around. And it does. Like I know we have all these conversations about, well, the SEC and Big Ten, because they have all this money because of all the TV deals and blah, 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 and they have control of everything. Yeah, great, cool. That is very true. It's why they're able to be successful in so many sports. A, warm weather. B, they got a ton of money because they got donors and they get all the TV money. But guess what? Any school that has some money, as far as donors, that you can convince to come and invest in a program and turn it around, you can have success there. There's a reason Oklahoma State Wrestling's turning things back around. It's because they've got an investor. Here's the thing that people have to understand. This is a college sports conversation at this moment. If you're going to be successful in non-football sports, it's because somebody is helping to bankroll it. And it ain't just, you can't go to the athletic director and be mad because why aren't we spending?
I would still argue you still need that in football, by the way. I would still argue that you still need some of that.
If you want to have national championship level, yes. If you just want to have a good football program, like the money's going to go there because football brings in its money. But if you want a non-football or men's basketball sport to be truly contending for national championships, you got to have somebody out there who wants to see that happen and is willing to invest to make it happen. And so Texas Tech does right now, and that's awesome. That's great.
I agree. And I get the people that are, hey, we don't have that money. We can't compete with that. I get it. I understand. Yep. I get it. But that's been an issue in college athletics for a while. This is not just a new thing. It's just a difference now. It's out more public. It's out there right in your face, whereas 10, 20 years ago, years ago, they were probably hiding it under the table.
Money. McDonald's bags, man. McDonald's bags. A lot of activity in the portal. I want to talk about Baylor here for a second. Obviously lost 11 seniors, has not had a transfer portal entry yet. But what they are doing with the portal so far that intrigues me. Next year, Baylor will have 3 seniors, 3 juniors, 11 sophomores, and 7 freshmen, because they've got 3 incoming will-be sophomore players. Pitcher Cambry Krieger from Arizona State, pitcher Peyton Tanner from Tennessee, and infielder Samaya Jones from LSU. This reminds me a lot. What that Coach Moore is doing in the portal right now reminds me a lot of 2021 when they brought in Pilcher and Orme and Govan, a bunch of young, high potential, talented players who they developed into stars. This reminds me of 2021 all over again. That's just what it feels like they're doing, is they're saying, we're going to not sit here and go for quick fix transfer portal additions. We're going to go get young, highly talented athletes to come in here, and we know that we can develop them, and we're going to develop these players, and we might be the youngest team in the Big 12 next year, and we may not have a ton of just immediate success, but we believe in this program enough to take this talent here and turn them into something where we can have another 2-year, maybe even 3-year run where Baylor is consistently successful, vying at sitting there at the top half of the Big 12 and expecting to make it into the postseason.
100% agree. I think Glenn's smart. I think he knows, hey, we're not going to be an immediate contender next year. So why go after a veteran player and overspend maybe, where you can just get younger players that are have a lot of upside and get that out of them. I think you're right. I think that's the other approach to take this. I don't think they're the only Big 12 school that we could say that. In fact, we won't. There's a couple others that come to mind on that, but I agree. I think he's trying to rebuild and build it up. And, maybe they take some licks next year, although he's such a good coach that I find it just like this year, they'll find a way to still be competitive and win games. And, can they get off to better starts? They'll be very young next year, but I agree with you. I think it's a good formula.
Can they avoid the injury bug? That's what killed them this year. That's what killed them this year. It's what's killed them every year, really. They killed their
I was going to say, it's killed them the last few years. Yeah, it's a what-if era in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But I like that, hey, this is what's worked for us. Let's stick to it. Let's not overreact to other things. And I think it works for them, and I love it. Hey, guess what? Not everyone's going to win a national championship, and being a consistently good program is a phenomenal thing. And I love that for Baylor. And again, it's good for the Big 12. That is good for the Big 12 to have a program that is going to go out there and be pain in the butt to beat and going to be good. We've got 3 out for Utah: Haley Dieter, Candace Tarl, and Marley Espiau. They brought in Anna Reimers, who's a senior pitcher from Cal. UCF's 3 out are Alexis Morgan, Deanna Cunningham, and Kylie Strott. I have not seen anybody in yet. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah. No, that's correct. Of course, the portal closes Monday. Fingers crossed. I know Leah's got her fingers crossed like I do, because we both have very similar rosters at our respective alma maters, and we're just let's just keep it moving. Let's keep it. Yeah. But yes, to your point, you are correct. Utah, by the way, I think that's a nice quiet move there in Reimers for Cal. They need experienced arms. And that's a good start there for them.
Kansas out so far: Haley Webb, Natalie Marshall, and Katie Brooks is the tough loss for them. That the senior pitcher who's pitched quite a bit for Kansas. That's a tough loss. We'll see what Kansas is able to do. Oklahoma State out Kyra Aycock. I'm not super surprised at that, junior pitcher. Taylor Anderson, who actually left in the fall. Tara Vandewater, freshman. She's actually already committed to Creighton. Michaela Work and Talon Edwards, third baseman there, have both left as well. Oklahoma State's got in Jaden Jones, second baseman, a freshman from Virginia Tech. Not her sister is going to be an incoming freshman, so that one kind of from that way. But tonight, a news I've been hoping to hear for quite some time is Melina Wilkinson, who's a redshirt junior outfielder from Indiana, watched her in that Fayetteville Regional against Oklahoma State, and that bat is beautiful. As soon as her name was announced in the portal, I went, Kenny, go get her. We all saw what she did. You saw what she did. That bat in Stillwater. So she has committed to Oklahoma State. I think that's a big pickup for Oklahoma State. Even with the down year, they're still able to get some top talent. On3 has her as the 8th highest ranked transfer portal player. So, and Oklahoma State, I don't think is done. There is at least one name I am aware of that they will be having come in and visit. We'll leave it at that. Houston, I mean, for the coaching change, still only 4 names in the portal that have left. Reese Cameron, junior catcher, Michaela Nita, Emily Prochaska, and of course, Brooke Wells, the big loss. A phenomenal freshman season from her. Would love to see her stay in the Big 12. Would be shocked if she's not at an SEC school. That is a talented young player. But I mean, no other transfer portal injuries we've seen so far from Houston. So I think that's a good news for Houston, as talented as that roster is, to see most of it so far holding together. Again, as they mentioned, portal closes on Monday. That just means that players can't enter anymore. They can still commit. Iowa State, their 3 losses: Abby Hune, Sorrenti Trice, that one's the one that hurts, and Aziza Rodriguez, especially because for the second straight year, an Iowa State transfer ends up at Arizona. Sorrenti Trice is going to Arizona.
Crazy.
That's the next one. Go ahead, Leah. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying, no. I was just saying the pipeline, even though it's like only 2 players, it's still kind of crazy and unique going from Iowa State not really having a whole lot of transfers to now 2 people going to Arizona. But I'm glad Serenity's staying in Big 12, and I think she's going to really thrive at Arizona.
Well, Arizona needs her because they lost a lot.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it's a good fit for her. Like, it's hard for me to be super upset, even though I loved her at Iowa State, but you never know why someone's going in the transfer portal. I don't know why she went in the transfer portal. And so hopefully it just,
But here's to me, the good news from an Iowa State standpoint, correct me if I'm wrong here, Leah, that's really the only, to me, significant loss as far as players you were expecting to come back.
Correct.
Like that core is still, as is this recording, because I'm always petrified.
I know.
Yes.
If they can keep that core, if you tell me that's the only significant loss in the portal, I think that's a success. I understand that you're upset about it, but in this era, it's hard to keep everybody.
Right. It's hard. And the core, I think, I want to be like, no, for sure they're good to go. But now you've got my heart racing and
don't make absolutes. It's like when I tease a guest by naming them for next episode and then they're not there.
So. I know it's funny because people keep asking me, hey, what's your thoughts on UCF next year? I'm like, ask me next week. I will be a lot more comfortable. I will be more than glad to talk next week. I will not talk about, because I've learned my lesson, not just from softball, but in other sports. As soon as you start talking about next year, boom, things happen. Right. And then you're like, So I rather wait. But again, if Iowa State, if you tell me that is the only significant loss, if you and I are texting next week, Leah, that's it. I think I know Pink will disagree with me on that, but I think it's a pretty success. I think you're in good shape if you're Iowa State.
I think so too.
And I wouldn't be shocked. Look, the portal closes as far as entries on Monday. The players are going to be committing for a while still to go. So it wouldn't shock me if Iowa State pulled in. Look, they made solid additions this last offseason, with just their 2. I trust Pink at this point to say, like, I'm going to find the right pieces that fit what we need and to make this team better. And I think he'll do that. Arizona, we want to talk about here for a second. As you mentioned, Eric, it was getting scary for Arizona for a while with all they had lost. And then they had one returning pitcher. You lost Aisa Silva, you lost Brooke Mannon, you lost Sydney Summerdike, you lost Ryan Maddox to the portal. Of course, you lost Devin Netz to graduation. You'd also lost Kate Vance, Zadie Tagalog, Emily Shep, Logan Cole, Dakota Kennedy, and Kaya Altmaier. Those are the 2. Look, the rest of them you could have as Arizona fans say, like, okay, we hate that Aisa Silva's leaving and going to Arizona State with the 10-12. We love intra-conference transfers. But when the news dropped of Dakota Kennedy and Kaya Altmaier leaving, those are the 2 that really felt like, okay, what's going on here? These are significant. Arizona's been busy in the portal. They've got 5 additions, as we mentioned. Sorrento Trice from Iowa State. Telly Jennings, sophomore outfielder from San Diego. Addison Duke, freshman outfielder from Ole Miss. Jalen Adams, junior pitcher from Iowa. She was solid for Iowa. Janae Berry, who is a freshman pitcher for Indiana. So Arizona's been busy in the portal. They're going to replenish this roster. They'll get some arms in there. I want that to kind of segue into Arizona is the team, I think, at this point, heading into next year that I can't offer an opinion about until we know what this roster looks like. It is the biggest wild card in the Big 12 to me next year.
I think they're the big loser to this point. And while you could say they're going to replenish this roster, and I think you're right, I find it hard to believe they're going to be able to replace Dakota Kennedy and Altmaier that quick. Like that, I thought, they had the best outfield in the Big 12. And that offense was great. They lost a lot of arms. You lose Devin. We're not even talking about the players that graduate, like Devin Netz. I mean, this is a rebuild. And it really what stings if you're Arizona is, my God, you couldn't get out of the regional? Like, you couldn't get out of the regional? Oh, that just makes it sting a little bit more. But I think they have the most questions, and not to give it away, as of right now, I'm not sure they're the best team in the state of Arizona that's in the Big 12. So,
no.
That.
They're if you ask me right now today, no, they are not. No, I don't believe so. Arizona State had 5 who entered. Julianne Tipton, freshman pitcher. Freshman pitcher Cambry Krieger, as we mentioned, committed to Baylor. She had a few Big 12 teams on her, so nice get for Baylor. Sophomore infielder Madison Okana. Sophomore outfielder Jolie Benson, and freshman first baseman Lillian Holche, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. Those are the exits. They've brought in 3 so far. They brought in Aisa Silva, pitcher from Arizona. We love interconference transfers. They brought in redshirt junior infielder Brooklyn Ulrich from Marshall. I like that ad. And sophomore utility Millie Roberts from Auburn. So, real quick, we'll wrap up our teams. BYU, 2 exits: Aria Morgan, infielder, freshman, and Amia Hernandez, freshman center field. So BYU, similar situation of not losing a lot. Arizona is by far the biggest hit. Texas Tech's got a big number, but not from a significant contributor standpoint to the portal. Arizona is by far the biggest hit. Oklahoma State, you hate to lose Wark and Talon Edwards. So that stings. But I mean, Arizona by far has been the team that has suffered the most loss and is going to have the most to replace this offseason. So let's use that to segue to our last segment here for the show. Look, Eric, you've teased it like for the last few episodes. We gotta like way too early power rank the Big 12. Can we all just knock Texas Tech off? I think we've talked about the Red Raiders a lot here on this episode. I think we all feel comfortable that Texas Tech is the Big 12 favorites heading next year, considering they're going to be preseason number 1 nationally. I've got thumbs up from Leah. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to nitpick and overanalyze the schedule and stuff like that. They're going to be the preseason number 1, no doubt.
Yeah, I hate ranking at this point because it is an absolute dart throw. Roll a dice down a hill and see what you get. Instead, I think it's better if we almost do this from a tiering situation, because I think it's better to do it that way. Because again, we don't know what the rosters are even are. How can we sit here and make predictions about teams? And I get it. No one's going to hold our feet over the fire about these. Be like, you said back in June of 2025 that Arizona State would finish second. Like, yeah, we don't even know what the rosters are. But tiering
was that a 90-year-old woman watching our podcast?
Of course. Someone's mom's watching this going, you said back in June that the Sun Devils were going to have a real number 2 team. And it's okay to say Texas Tech at 1 by themselves because they're in a tier of their own. Where it gets interesting to me is tier 2, because tier 2 feels big this year as we head into next year. Because I feel like I could comfortably put Arizona State, UCF, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, all in there. You know what? If you want to make a case for BYU in tier 2 as well, I might listen to it. But I think there's those 4 teams. I feel very confident of Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and UCF of saying any one of these 4 teams could finish second next year, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
That's a fair list. Oklahoma State to me is the interesting team here as far as I'm curious what they do in the pitching staff. Do they add an arm? If so, who it is? Do they believe Riley Crandall can help Ruby Malin? Does the offense, how do they fix that? Is that an internal fix? Is that an outside fix? I think they're fascinating to me after the year they had. What does Kenny Gajewski do? I think they're the wild card because I'm very curious to see how they handle that situation. I think UCF, I like UCF and Iowa State. Here's where me and Lea just kiss and make up right here because I like the course of the two teams. The one question I have about Iowa State, and I'll ask you, Lea, you first, is this pitching.
Right.
Can Iowa, where, they kind of did it by committee, and can that work a second year? Can they find, does any of those arms currently on that staff develop to being an ace like a UCF has with Vega, like Oklahoma State has with Malin? That's the only, Arizona State, the biggest addition Arizona State made was not anybody they added in the portal. It was the one they kept in Kenzie Brown. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the question with Iowa State. Who is that for Iowa State or as far as in that staff? Because I love the position players that Pink has built there. Clemens is a star in the making.
Right. She's awesome.
And I think they're going to hit. I understand they lose Angelina Allen, who's, has replaced you as my favorite Cyclone. And a lot, quite frankly, I think is replaced. I think you've been replacing Pink's eyes too. In fairness, it's not just
yes,
Pink.
Yes.
But I like that cord that he has. I'm curious if they'll tweak it and add a piece to it. But the biggest question I have for Iowa State, to me, to be an NCAA tournament team, outside of what we've talked about the pre-conference and getting off to better starts, the way you get off to better starts is have better, strong pitching. Where is that? Because I agree. If they can answer that question, I absolutely agree that they should be on that tier 2 in the mix for that Phillip just brought up.
No, 1,000%. I mean, we already have 2 Iowa State pitchers in the portal, and it's hard to develop to become an ace. And I liked how Jaden and Lauren were working this year, but now there's a lot of film on these 2 girls, and so it's going to be tough. And I'll be curious to see if Coach Pink's working on bringing someone a little more experienced to the Iowa State roster, which I think could really, really benefit them in the end. And I think that could help them kind of secure that tier 2 level that Phillip is talking about. But I mean, again, Eric, you're killing it. You're killing the analyst part of your job because that's exactly what everyone's thinking with Iowa State. So,
because I think to contend in the Big 12 next year, you've got to have an ace. You've got to, and at Texas Tech, we know they have that. My goodness. We know Oklahoma State will have that with Ruby Malin. I believe in Ruby Malin. I understand it didn't end well in Fayetteville. I think that's going to motivate her. I think that's going to motivate her to be the best Ruby Malin possible next year. I think at UCF with Isabella Vega, I think she'll be strong. They're still believing Jasenia Lopez is there. I think Coach Ball Malone, like what you just suggested for Coach Pink, will add an arm. She always does every year. I think she's looking for an experienced arm. The question is, can you get the right player? Because, again, they're not in the Texas Tech business as far as financially. Right. They're not in that radar, or even Oklahoma State's of the world, to be honest. Right. So that's their question. But you look at UCF's core. They are projected to return the entire infield. There's some tweaks in the outfield. They added a piece last year's portal after the fall. A kid that transferred from Marshall. She sat out the year. She'll probably be in the mix for the outfield. So I think UCF's in great shape. I think Arizona State, I agree with Kenzie Brown. Does the offensive pieces work? Who replaces Kelsey Hall will be a question, but I agree. I think Arizona State's in the right direction with Coach Bartlett. And again, if Iowa State could figure out that pitching stuff, I like them as well. All those teams, Phillip, you just mentioned, are all potential NCAA tournament teams. And I would also include BYU, except I'm not ready. I think BYU, we got to see the non-conference schedule, number one. All right, we got to see that. And then number two, what is their pitching? Which pitching staff was BYU? Because it got off to a great start, but as the year played out, it kind of took some hits. But I think BYU I don't know if they're in that border. They could be in that tier 2, but they're probably that first team in tier 3. But I think all those teams have a legitimate shot to be an NCAA tournament teams, which would be more than this year. And I noticed I didn't even bring up Arizona. So I tells you, I think this league is deeper next year already.
If I had a nickel for every time we talked about next season for the Big 12, I could pay Lea to keep her from leaving for Texas Tech to become their new color analyst. Since Texas Tech doesn't have a travel radio team, maybe Lea would like to become that. I think she'd do a phenomenal job as a road radio color commentator for Texas Tech softball. We'll see what we can do. I'll reach out and see if anyone wants to listen to me there. Tier 3, I think you're right on BYU. I would have them at the top of my tier 3 of teams that I say the potential is there at this point for them to be a team where I say perhaps they get into the top half of the conference, perhaps they're able to make the postseason. I just have questions about them that I need to have answered before I feel confident or comfortable in predicting either of those teams for them. But if I have to pick what let's call them postseason dark horses, I'd put BYU at the top of the list. I would put Baylor there. I just touched in Glenn Moore a lot. I really do. And if they can have a healthy team, and I don't think he's done in the portal, that's a team I'm going to keep an eye on just because of what Baylor consistently does. I'm going to have Arizona there. I know there's a lot of shakeup, but there's just there's always going to be too much talent at Arizona.
Well, and Adams was a good pickup, the pitcher from Iowa. She's a good pitcher that will help. No doubt.
That's a good addition. After that might be the end of my tier 3. It might just be 2 teams. Because I have a hard time with Houston with a new head coach. Don't know what to expect there. As bad as Utah was this year, that would be a hell of a leap next year for them to try and be in a situation to contend for the postseason. And I'm going to go into next year with Kansas as my projected worst team in the Big 12.
Woo! Oh.
I don't like saying it. I hate it. I like Coach McFalls. I would love for Kansas to have success.
But you know what's good? But here's the interesting thing, though. All right, so let's say you say Kansas is on paper the worst team. They're not a pushover.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
Which is my point. I think this league is thick. Like, it's really strong. If that is accurate, it may not be. Like, Utah's not going to be a pushover next year. Houston's that's the unknown because obviously it's a new coach. They're going to have to, we're going to find out what players stay, what don't. Can they find pitching? Because, Lord, they haven't had it in the last few years. There's a lot of questions there. But I don't see there's not a team at this point that I see there that you're like, all right, that's an easy sweep. That's an easy weekend. That's a lock. I don't see it. And I think this league is strong, unlike other leagues that have those automatically. So in a weird way, while that might come off negative on Kansas, and you may not be wrong on that. I do like some of the pieces that she has there. They just got to score more runs. They have some good arms. I know they lose Brooks, but they had other good arms. They just can't score. And Houston can't stop anybody from scoring. So maybe they should just join together, and maybe that would be the answer for
That's
both
what we
sides.
Said. If you took the best of Kansas and the best of Houston, that's a postseason team. That's a dang good softball program.
Correct. That is correct. So
they're losing in a regional final in a winner take all game.
I mean Kansas took a game from Oklahoma State, pushed Texas Tech when they played them in Lawrence. So it's not. So I think that tells you again. That's why I'm really confident, and optimistic that the Big 12 has a chance to be the number 2 conference in the sport next year. I was happy to see on the D1 final poll, that there was more. The Big 12 had 4 teams ranked in the final poll, more so than the Big Fraud. That's more than the Big 10. The ACC, nobody brought this up. They all this talk. They had 9 NCAA tournament teams. They flopped. They struck out. No teams made the World Series. I think the Big 12, Texas Tech's clearly going to be a national title contender. You got to trust Kenny Gajewski will figure something out and they'll bounce back and be in the mix. And I like the talent the UCF has on the roster. I think Iowa State, if they can get off to a better start, and we talked about that pitching, they could be an NCAA tournament team without question. This league can finally maybe get to be a 6-7 bid league that we've been talking about that somehow has just not been able to break through that glass door. But I think it's a 6-7 bid league potentially next year with what it has coming back with a league that, you look at those aces that we have in the league next year. That's going to be as good as any in any conference.
I'll note your comment on Oklahoma State because I didn't say much on them. Yeah, I've no doubt Ruby will come back and be fantastic. No Lexi Kilfoyle. The more Lexi Kilfoyle plays, the more I'm just like, y'all would like it, the expectation someone's just going to come in and be her again is ridiculous at how good she is. I do think, given Riley Crandall showed up and was injured and had to spend most of her season getting better, at the end of the year, when you look at how she played in that Fayetteville regional, if Riley Crandall comes in healthy, that's the Riley Crandall at the end of the year that we thought we would have all year when she signed with Oklahoma State. So I'm Riley Crandall, I feel confident in. I do think they're going to try and find a third arm. I think they'll try and find a third arm from the portal. And if they do, because I think he knows you got to have three, like I will be interested to see who that is and the impact they can have. But the offense is the biggest thing. It's why I'm so excited about the Wilkeson signing. Like, yes, thank you. I saw her hit. She's fun to watch hit the ball. Not when it's against your team, but dang, is it fun to watch her hit the ball. I'm very excited about that. Look, I would love, I don't want to dog on Kansas. I'm just not going to say anymore about Kansas. I love them. I want success for them.
Lea, Phillip's been all anti-Houston and Kansas. Boy,
no, I'm kind of liking this side of Phillip. It's fun.
I don't like to dislike them. I have to be honest.
Right. It's the life of a journalist.
State. I hope that Pink goes and says, all right, tell you what, Lea, we have to start here today the Help Pink Buy a Pitcher Fund. Help Pink buy a portal pitcher. I could probably put about $20 to $25 in. I don't know how much you think you could commit.
Right, I'm not sure yet.
If you can lead this social push, and we'll get as many Iowa State fans, and I'll hop in the Wide Right Night Light Discord and be like, y'all, we're raising funds.
I was gonna say, I figured Lea would take care of it, all the jobs that she's got.
Well, I promised Coach Pink I would be getting him a scoreboard, but they already got that, so my job's done, I think.
Yeah, let's get a pitcher. Let's wear amenities are great. Pitching is better.
Right. Couldn't agree more.
No shot against the Cyclones pitchers that they have on the roster, but let's I'm gonna go pull up the On3 soft pitcher rankings. Maybe we can get let's see, we got a Megan Gregory from Campbell or an Allison Sparkman from Florida Gulf Coast. Someone along those lines would be. Oh, we can get Ryan Maddox from Arizona. There we go. So plenty of pitchers available. A lot of Arizona pitchers if you want to stay in conference. Just do a trade. Arizona, Iowa State just need to have a policy like that's fine. You get one, we get one. Okay, you take one of ours, we take one. This is gonna become professional sports. We got to make this more fair. Fine, you can have Serenity Trice, but we need a pitcher in exchange and maybe a player to be named later. She'll be the player. Yeah, okay. This has been phenomenal. I'm going to miss talking to you two every single week. I will promise we will not wait till February to get back together again because obviously we got to talk transfer portal as that continues to happen. I'm going to do everything I can to get Houston's new head coach and chat with her.
I can't wait for that.
I'm gonna be nice. Like I'm not gonna be like, how did you end up with this job, lady? I can't imagine that they hired you to be the Houston head coach. Come on, I'm not an idiot. Look, I'm gonna do my best. I'm trying to put together all the like summer softball like rosters from like the Northwoods League and the Texas one. Try and get some Big 12 players who are playing summer softball. Get them on. I'm gonna try and get Lexi Kilfoyle on because it's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to Lexi, and I think I'd like a little FaceTime with her again, being her number one biggest fan. So yeah. All right. This has been fun. I will miss you too. I will miss all of you. I will continue to hop in the softball Discord. You can find the link in the show notes. Eric, you talk about softball all year long. Where can everybody hear and read you doing so?
In the Circle SB, that's the podcast. It'll be still going on throughout the off season. Hopefully I won't have to have Lea on, because if I did, that means something happened at Iowa State. We don't want that to happen. I want this. I want our rosters to stay intact, Lea, till next week.
Thank you, Eric.
That's all we're asking. Leave us alone. You go after somebody else. Leave us alone. But no, we'll track down all the news in the offseason. D1 softball is the place to go. Justin McLeod's the one that's breaking a lot of this stuff too, so follow him. But follow D1 softball and follow In the Circle all year. We'll be on twice a week, and we'll have some guests on throughout the year. Maybe I will bring Lea on at some point. Once the coast clears and everybody's safe, maybe we'll be allowed to. But hey, listen, like I said, it's been a pleasure, both of you. I will. Yes, we will not be talking on the air, but I will certainly be. We will be keeping in touch, especially Lea. I have to talk to somebody,
right?
Especially Lea. Yeah, of course. Especially we're all. Yeah. Eric and I won't text until February, but we will both text to Lea, and she can just be a go-between for us.
Yeah, I can be the middleman.
Lea, you just call me when you need to pick me up, and just send hair photos to Eric so that he can still see your illustrious.
I'm just going to be asking Lea about like Iowa State football and all, because she's hosting a bunch of Iowa State shows.
Cyclone Fanatic.
Yes.
It's wise to get you. And I appreciate that they're paying you on behalf of us as well. So that someone's doing it, because someone has to. Lea, obviously Cyclone Fanatic, but where else? What's going on? We did our last full summer preview of what's going down in the Quad Cities, Lea.
Quad Cities has just been the place to be. The place to be. You guys, seriously, if you've never been, you need to visit. It's quick. Look at me. My job, and I'm doing a really great job selling it. You just have to trust me. Just come to the Quad Cities. It's the place to be. So, all right. That's all I've got to say.
So, Lea, off air, we'll be talking about Quad Cities, maybe doing some advertising here on the podcast in the future. So we'll direct all of our hundreds of fans to go visit the Quad Cities.
Yes, visit the Quad Cities.
Seriously, to everybody who's been listening to the show this season, thank you so much. Love doing this show. Love covering college softball. Love covering Big 12 softball. Thank you to every player and coach who has graced us with their presence and their time. Thank you to all of our other guests who have been here. It is, I can't tell you how much I love doing the show. And while I am happy to take the break, I'm always sad when the season comes to an end, because I immediately give me about a week and I will immediately start looking forward to having every single person we've had on the show back on the show next year, and start going through and all right, who's the SIDs, and can we get this coach out in the off season, and what players should we start keeping an eye on? I can't wait. I cannot wait. So Eric and Lea, again, seriously, I love you both. You're both fantastic. Thank you again to everybody. And we'll talk to you again soon.